Hello, I'm Dr. Bernard Hairston, the second African American to hold the position of Assistant Superintendent in the long history of Albemarle County Public Schools. Think about it and ask yourself, why only 2 and why 51 years between the first and second hiring? The school board entrusted me with the responsibility to develop and oversee the implementation of this anti-racism policy. I have asked myself why, and my answer is because I'm Black. I've experienced racism in Albemarle County Public Schools, accepted being a practitioner of individual, institutional, and structural racism as a decision maker in Albemarle County Public Schools, and I have no problem speaking the truth, and a track record of pushing against our status quo thinking and doing business in Albemarle County Public Schools. Thus, concluding, the school board must be serious about confronting this institutional system built on advancing whiteness. These are personal clues to my understanding of the 4 principles embedded in the anti-racism policy. This orientation officially invites you to the table as decision makers. You are the behaviors, you are the attitudes, you are the protectors of everyday practices and the necessary agents of change in this journey to shift us to a more inclusive working and learning environment exclusive of racism. For my white colleagues who are bus drivers to principals, this work is about acknowledging that you don't know what you don't know about race. You are often invisible because you can be. To my colleagues of color, who are office associates to teachers, it is about how you advance and respect the learning curves of different points of view about race simply by pushing just hard enough, but not so hard you close doors. Now ask yourself, to what degree does race complicate your life if you are white versus a person of color? This work is about all of us acknowledging our part as change agents by honoring the 3rd and 4th principles of the anti-racism policy. The school board and our superintendent's cabinet are actively engaged in learning to become anti-racist leaders. Also, every principal and every department head should be leading discussions on the Courageous Conversations About Race book study. This policy requires everyone to be trained in Albemarle County Public Schools. Now reflect on the Black males that describe individual racism in a previous slide, and if they experience discrimination based on their skin color. Consider the language in the school board's non-discrimination policy, AC. It states, Albemarle County Public Schools shall not discriminate on the basis of sex, gender, race, color, or any other characteristic protected by law in the educational programs it operates. Now, consider if discrimination and racism occur regularly among students and adults of color in Albemarle County Public Schools, and if so, what structures and practices exist to protect the behaviors. We see what we look for. Now, not too long ago, I was engaged in a conversation with a group of my white colleagues about achievement gaps between students of color and white students. The low level in which I perceived their concern angered me to the core of my soul, resulting in this statement. If these were your children, your relatives, people who look like you, the urgency for addressing these long-standing inequitable practices and downright embarrassing results would be different. There was silence, little to no eye contact. But what is most concerning is that no one in that group has spoken to me about that exchange. Now ask yourself, why? But more importantly, ask what you would have done in my role in that situation or their role. Now consider the possible connection to the 2nd principle of the anti-racism policy. It's time to wrap up. I can own what I do with the words written in this policy for applying the definition of anti-racism. I can hold myself accountable for identifying, challenging, and changing the value structures and behaviors that perpetuate systemic racism in this school division. This simple statement drives my accountability. If I identify forms of racism and I do absolutely nothing about it, then I become a practitioner of racism. Now consider this controversial statement by some researchers. You are either a racist or an anti-racist. It is time for you to think about how you will own this required anti-racism training and the policy. I leave you with this thought. Be real, my colleagues, and ask yourself, if you are on this moving Albemarle County Public School anti-racism school bus, or if you need help finding your seat and keeping your seat, or if it's time for you to just get off the bus. Let me know if you need personalized support. Thank you for listening and your efforts to make Albemarle County Public Schools a more equitable and inclusive environment to learn and work. We can do this together.